So you're scrolling online and you see it. Some huge, mind-blowing number about a celebrity's business empire. It happens all the time, right? But have you ever stopped to think what a massive revenue figure actually tells you about how well a business is doing? Well, today, we're going to do just that. We're going to grab our business analyst hats and dig into one of those numbers. And you'll see why the most impressive figure is often just the beginning of the story. And boom, there it is, $98,400,000. I mean, come on, that's a number that just stops you in your tracks. It just screams success, doesn't it? Okay, so what is this number? Well, according to the source material, this is the estimated annual revenue from Gordon Ramsay's restaurant empire. We're talking about 90 or so restaurants all across the globe. And that's everything, from those super high-end Michelin-starred places all the way to his more casual burger joints. This is the grand total of every single dollar that comes through the door. But here's where we need to pause. This is the big question. If you're trying to figure out how healthy and successful a business really is, does this one big number tell you the whole story? Honestly, the answer is no, not even close. And that brings us to maybe the single most important concept we need to get our heads around today. It's the difference between revenue and, well, reality. So let's just be super clear. What even is revenue? In simple terms, it's all the money that comes in. It's the total cash generated from selling all those steaks and burgers and fancy desserts. Think of it as the gross income before a single bill has been paid.
Which, leads us to a pretty logical question, right? Is all that money coming in the front door the same pile of cash the business owners actually get to keep?
Nope, absolutely not. And this little chart here shows you exactly why. Revenue is what we call the top line. It's that big, flashy number at the very top of the financial statement. But profit is the bottom line. It's what's left after you've paid for everything, every salary, every light bill, every single ingredient. Profit is what really counts. So, okay, let's put that analyst hat back on. If you're looking at that almost $100 million figure, your brain should immediately start firing off a few really important questions. First and foremost, you gotta ask, what does it cost to run this whole thing? I mean, a global empire of 90 restaurants doesn't just run on a famous name. It runs on a whole lot of money going out the door every single day. And just think about the sheer scale of it all. You've got salaries and benefits for thousands of employees. You've got rent and utilities for 90 different spots, probably in some of the most expensive cities in the world, sourcing top-notch ingredients, global marketing campaigns, a whole corporate office to manage it all, and, of course, taxes. These costs are absolutely massive. All right, next question a good analyst would ask is, who actually owns these places? Because it's almost never as simple as one person owning 100% of everything. The setup could be all over the map. Sure, some might be fully owned by his company, but a lot of them are probably joint ventures, with local partners who get a big slice of the profits. And others could be franchises, where Ramsay's company gets a fee but they don't get all the revenue. Every single one of these models completely changes who gets what piece of that $98 million pie. And that brings us to the third and maybe most crucial question. How much money is actually made on each sale? We call this the profit margin, and believe me, it is not the same for every restaurant. Just think about it for a second. A 3-Michelin-star restaurant has insane costs, right? The staff, the super rare ingredients, the margins can be razor thin. But a burger joint, the costs are lower, so the potential for higher profit on each burger is much better. And the restaurant industry in general is famous for tight margins, sometimes as low as 3 to 5%. So unless we know the exact mix of all 90 of these restaurants, figuring out the final profit is, well, it's pretty much a wild guess. So when you start putting all these questions together, the costs, the ownership, the margins, you start to see that there's a huge hidden story behind that one big number. I love this visual because it makes it so clear. That massive revenue figure we started with, it's just that tiny little sliver of the whole picture. The rest of it, the 95%, that includes all the costs, the ownership details, and the actual profit, is a complete mystery. It's the classic iceberg metaphor, and it's perfect here. The revenue is the shiny part sticking out of the water that everyone sees and gets impressed by. But the real bulk of the story, the massive part that actually determines if the business is sinking or swimming, is hidden deep below the surface. So let's just boil it down. The analyst mindset is basically 3 simple steps. 1, you see the big headline number. 2,
you immediately start questioning all the costs. And 3, you always look for the real number, the profit.
And that takes us all the way back to the beginning. The source was very clear that this $98.4 million number was fact-checked. It's an accurate number. And this right here is the key takeaway for all of us. A number can be a fact without being the whole truth. Sure, the revenue figure is accurate, but the truth of the business's financial health, that lies in the profit. And that's something we just can't see from this one data point. So I'll just leave you with this little thought experiment. The next time you're scrolling and you see some massive headline about a company's record-breaking revenue, what's the very first question that's going to pop into your head? My guess is you're going to be looking for the bottom line.